as in China, as in Russia. They have an interest at stake. We can't afford to start a war against them at any level. We need to go about this at this point in a diplomatic fashion. Bring Putin to the table. Bring Turkey to the table. Bring these countries together and say, wait a second, guys. We already know they're doing something that we all agree they shouldn't, the use of chemical weapons. None of us can allow for that to happen. Where do we go from here? What can we do? Everybody has an interest here now. Let's work to resolve this. If after all diplomatic avenues have been exhausted, then we have to look at what military action may be taken and who will support us on that, and whether or not we actually have a vested interest in order to do that. A vested interest as in a national interest from this country.
What would you say to the people that say, well, what about all the hundreds of people have already been killed there with just mere bullets? And now he's using chemicals, and now all of a sudden everyone wants to jump in.
Well, I think it's part of the failed policy that this country has had, that this president has had with regard to the Middle East. We can't pick and choose based on some political idea as to whom we're going to back and not back without any particular standards. We want to be humanitarians and provide humanitarian aid, but we can't be a nation builder. We should never be a nation builder. We should offer aid and assistance to those who are sincerely able to and pursue democratic forms of government. But at this point, we can't see that in Syria. So, they have killed hundreds of thousands with conventional warfare, and now they're moving into chemical warfare. It's because the lines have been drawn in the sand by this president and crossed. And at some point, now that he's put himself in a box, he has to take action. And I'm afraid that his action is going to be military, which is not going to be the best resolution at this time. We have to bring resolution to this, but we're at the point now where I believe that the only avenue is to bring the stakeholders in, which are the surrounding countries, the superpowers that are still left, and have them diplomatically resolve this issue.
Back domestically across campus about an hour ago, Alan Cohn just announced his Democratic candidacy to take your job. Have you heard of him?
I have yet to meet him, but I look forward to meeting him.
He was an investigative reporter with Channel 28. So what do you think about him trying to take your job?
Oh, that goes with that's part of the process. I mean, giving the constituents choice is what this is all about. I have no problem about that. I think I've defined myself very well. I think that I have a great relationship with my constituency. We may not always agree, but they know where I'm coming from, and I'm looking forward to the next election. Thanks.
Thank you.
Congressman,
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Willie Lawson of
Yes,
Florida
sir.
Dash. Listen, if I can get back to Syria, aren't we in the same position that George Bush found himself in when dealing with Iraq? The real problem
Yes.
is that if we get in militarily, what's the plan for say we take Assad out? What happens after that? Isn't that the real problem?
Well, it is. That's why we have no exit strategy, and I think that's why it has to come to Congress if he's thinking about if the president's thinking about using military action in Syria. There has to be a plan for entry, but also for exit. And even though we did go into Iraq under the thought or threat of chemicals of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction, chemical warfare, we now have evidence that there is some in Syria. I think we've learned from Iraq that we need to make sure that we aren't going to go in there and be a nation builder. We've got to have a very, very targeted strike if we're going to do this, but we need to make sure that we've got the allies of the United States behind us when we do this. We can't just do this unilaterally at this time. I think it'll do more harm than good. And this is kind of deja vu.
It is, and no one's mentioned the effect possibly of Iran attacking Israel at that point, because wouldn't all bets be off at that point?
I would feel that at that point, we would have our hands full in backing Israel. Israel will not back down. Israel will not take a threat very lightly. They will be there to defend themselves, and they will do so against Iran. I would feel for Iran right now if they provoked Israel. Israel's ready. But we should never have let this fester to this point. There are economic opportunities there that everybody has benefited from, whether it be Jordan, whether it be the Arab Emirates, whether it be Turkey, whether it even be Syria. There are economic opportunities that have happened in that area that have allowed these countries to develop more. But unfortunately, because of cultural differences, because of tribal differences, we can't get stable governments in there.
All right. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you
Thanks,
being
Willie.
here on Florida Dash.
Likewise.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Yes, sir.